Hi, it's Chris Watkin here. I'm joined by the godfather of North London estate agency, Murray Lee. Thank you for joining me today,
Welcome,
Murray.
Chris. Nice to meet you in the flesh.
Indeed, sir. I want to ask you your story of estate agency, man and boy, from the early 70s through to today, the trials and tribulations, so the people watching this can learn from your mistakes, learn from what you did well and what you didn't do so well, so they can be better estate agents themselves. Is that okay?
Yes, of course. I'm not sure how many bad things there are, but I'm sure you'll wheedle them out of me.
Murray, how did you become an estate agent in the 1970s?
My mum said to me, no one, a son of mine, is going to work in a supermarket as a manager. With some regret, because that supermarket was called McFisheries. They then were swallowed up by Safeway. They then went public, sold all their shares, and I'd have been a millionaire by now, but that's another story. In the end, I was walking down the high street in Edgware where I live, and there was a sign in the window, Junior Wanted. I walked in, and the rest is history. It's a company called Alan Sadick and Company.
The good old days with the you have the old machine where you used to
Stetner, it was called. I used to come home filthy, mud, black ink everywhere. That was my job. The secretary typed the stencil. You had to feed it onto the machine, print out the details. No pictures, no videos, no nothing. And of course, then you had to take the stencil off to get the next one on and covered in ink. But it was part of the process.
Well, and then when the 80s came, we used to get those little photographs. And
That's
then,
right.
if any of you guys in your 20s and 30s, if you haven't stuck photos on brochures, I'm sorry, you cannot call yourself an estate agent.
Absolutely. I was
Used to
very
stick
lucky. We had a photography shop, you know, where you took, they were right next door and he became a friend of mine. I was peeling the numbers all the time.
So you became a junior estate agent in the 70s. It could have been very easy that you could have gone back to Tesco's and Safeways, you know, cashier number 4, that sort of thing. And what did you love about estate agency being a junior?
I've always been a person who sells himself. I did it through my youth. I was a member of a club and often won what was called then Club Member of the Year. For a little guy, I've got a very big mouth and I'd like to think I'm quite personable. I can make friends with people very easily. And that was a business that needed you to show yourself to the public. I had a great teacher. Her name, bless her, was Lottie Sadick. She was the son of the owner, Alan Sadick, and she came in religiously every day and was on that phone, dialing out, offering properties, going through the Rolodex, making friends with people. I was lucky enough to sit next to her and learn what to do, and she was selling herself. And she was a most fantastic salesperson. And I learned from there that if you've going to be an estate agent, you've got to get people to trust you. I think in those days, it was a more respectable business than it became. If you couldn't be a lawyer or an accountant, you became an estate agent because, of course, you didn't need the qualifications. And I hope, and leading on, which perhaps we'll get to, I did it professionally then, as I still do now. I wanted to make sure that people trusted in me and that the move that they made was the one they wanted to make. I said earlier on to you, the houses sell themselves. If you know, whatever you try and do, if someone doesn't want a house, they're not going to buy it. But if they want the house, your job is to make sure it happens. And that's what I got good at. And from that, over the years, I built a whole black book of solicitors that I know very well. And they know when they deal with me, they're dealing with something positive, not, excuse my language to the other guys, commission chasers. I'm there to get the sale through. And from the beginning of instruction to the end of that, I'm there with them all the way. And the proof of that is, I think 4 times I've had one property back to sell from each different vendor on the way. You don't build trust if you don't get that.
I mean, I looked at some stats that probably only 1 in 8 home buyers go back to the agent they bought their house through. And a stat that gets thrown back at me is, well, interestingly, people only move every 18 or 19 years. What the stat that's thrown back is that half of all sales move every 6 years. The others are the ones that stay there for like 30 years, which really screws up the average.
I can't say they all come back to me, but I'd like to think a good percentage do.
Good stuff. So that was in the 70s. I'm assuming as you went through the 70s and got a bit of hair on your chin, I know you obviously lost it from your head later in life. Sorry, the fun. Did you start valuing houses?
Yes, I was only at Alan Sadick's for about 3 years when a mortgage broker friend of mine set up another estate agency. And that's probably where I started to blossom because he knew what I was doing. I went to Hendon, which is not far from Edgware, and then that got taken over a year later. he didn't find estate agency what he wanted it to be, and another company called Clifton's took us over. And it was about then that I was managing the office. By then I was early 20s, and I had the knowledge of the area, and you cannot value a property unless you have the knowledge of the area. Doesn't matter how good, how many shiny teeth you've got, if you don't know the value of your property, you can't get your instruction, without doubt. And I was there for about 4 years, and I got headhunted again by another company, and that's where I did all my valuations. And going back, and there's a lot of surveyors who probably won't watch this, but a lot of surveyors who might, I got a computer for a mind, and I can remember now many of the sales that I've done, and they come to me for the valuations of comparables. Never mind about all the data that all the websites have, they know I know the properties better.
So you are now rocking and rolling. When did you get the bug that you wanted to set up your own estate agency?
I stepped out of it to the side in 1986 and went into property development with somebody.
Okay.
Unfortunately, that crashed because of the virus.
Yes, in
I then
88.
came back into it in 1989.
Okay.
I worked right next door the company I'd worked for before, because it was all in Hendon, and that's where my area is. And going back to what I said to you about the valuations, promises were made at that stage that weren't kept, and an opportunity came along to, I won't say go on my own, but go on my own with a partner. And that was 1994. And we opened up a company called Kingsley's, and we ran it together pretty much as I was running it myself. He was in the background and had a lot of involvement with the letting side, but I ran the sales side completely.
Because it's Kingsley's that your name is, in the vast
Synonymous.
majority of London, is synonymous with.
Yeah.
Starting your own agency, surely, I know you had the frustrations of working for someone else, but surely you've had some fears.
I had a lot of fears. I come from a very reasonable background. I don't want to say poor, that's not the right word. I come from a very loving background, and my parents would have supported me whatever I'd done. But I was always cautious. I even am today. I want to make sure I've got £2 before I spend £1. And that was a risk. Going out on your own, opening your own estate agency worried me. So it was always nice to know there was a cushion to fall back on.
But what was going through your head when you actually did say, let's do this?
Then or now?
Well, then.
Then,
Because you said, so you must have built up a lump of money. You must have had some other fears.
I don't think I did, other than starting again. I'd done it, don't forget. I'd started.
Were you worried what people would think about you if you failed?
No, I don't have that worry.
That's quite a superpower, because most people do.
Yeah, I try not to think about
Do
failure.
you think that's why you're quite predominant on video? And I know we're jumping ahead now, but how can I say this? Well, it might come out disrespectful. There aren't that many estate agents in their 60s who are so prevalent on video.
That doesn't come out any other way than what it is. I do it because it does get me attention. And
Okay.
I am the brand. Above my door it says now, Dreamview Estates, Murray Lee Limited.
Okay.
So it's me.
But we could all run down the high street naked and get the same attention.
The stuff I do gets, I hope, humorous attention. And the stuff I do from the Dreamview's point of view improves the brand or expands the brand to a wider audience. I wouldn't be sitting here today if I hadn't done, before you picked up on the Four Horsemen, some of the stuff I'd done. And if I can say, and we have jumped ahead, the Four Horsemen came about, I'd like to think, because of me. I was the catalyst that was on. We set up the Estate Agency Union Group, which didn't take off as much as Boycott Rightmove did, perhaps because of the branding. Rob Sargent's Say No to Branding, and David Thomas's Revolution. I saw all those in the headlights, and I thought, we've got to bring it together. Only me, none of the others did that.
Okay.
For a 66-year-old man, I'd like to think I'm quite media savvy. Yeah, okay, a lot of it's childish and silly and rubbish. A lot of it is, and let's be honest, a lot of Facebook is, we all know that. But it keeps your name in the public eye. And I repeat, I wouldn't be sitting here.
Well, they say entertain or educate, and you'll be there. Let's come back to you starting Kingsley's. So your biggest fear was making sure that you had a financial cushion, which I think is a huge lesson for everyone out there that if you are going to start your own estate agency, even if it's a self-employed, build yourself up a lump of money so you don't have to, so you're not running around like a what's name. And that
Yep.
might mean that you go without a holiday for 2 years.
Yes.
It might mean you might have to remortgage the house, but if you're confident in your own ability,
Skills.
would you agree with that?
Yes, definitely, definitely.
Okay, so you started Kingsley's in, you say, 94?
With the other partner in 1994, yeah. It was a
Okay.
business that had gone into mothballs, so the name and the brand were there already. You were walking into a template of a company.
Okay, so 1994, the housing market during the 90s was a bit in the doldrums, it was bumbling around, nothing fancy. How did things go?
Pretty well. It took about 18 months to 2 years to really establish. And I said to the partner at the time, give me a year. You're not going to see any income much before that, as we know how long it takes for a sale to go through. But gradually, because of where I was previously, don't forget now I'm in Golders Green and Hendon is a mile away. Business came to me from Hendon and we expanded in Golders Green because the company had a name there already. And it went. We had lettings. In fairness, that's a good underpin for any business. It brings you cash flow all the time and a quicker turnaround. Sales is a much longer process to go through.
So things were bumbling along quite nicely in the 90s, then it went into the 2000s. I know things are going okay at this point. The housing market was doing really, really well, especially in London in 2001, 2, 3 and 4. You were just enjoying life, being an estate agent, earning well, that
Yeah.
sort of thing?
Absolutely. You did your job, you got on, you had success, you sold lots of properties, and you came home every night comfortable with what you were doing. It was just about then that the internet came in. I remember coming into Kings's one day and all the pictures had gone out the window. And I said, where are they gone? And he said, oh, you'll see. And we went into the back office and we had a modem, if you remember.
Oh, yeah.
And that's right. And the green screen.
Yes.
And he said, look, here's our product. I said, this is the Beatles moment. Who's going to want to look at properties like that? If only. We were dealing with something called Estate in those days, a little portal, as it was swallowed up by Rightmove, and it was free then. And I said, this is the way it's changing. It's going to change, and we've got to be at the forefront of this, and we were. It wasn't long after that somebody else you've interviewed today, Charlie Lamdin, brought along Easy Match, because a few years later, Rightmove and Zoopla were the names, and you could upload your properties. That was phenomenal. To be able to put all your properties on one page at the same time. So you had to move with the times.
And why aren't you still there today?
That's a longer story, and I don't think we've got the time for all that. We were successful. We had issues, as marriages do sometimes, and an opportunity came along to be more in control of my own office within the same location. At first, I wasn't sure what I was going to do. I handed in my resignation without knowing what I was going to do. I thought I'd go into property consultancy because I think I know a lot in a big way, in a nice way. But then this opportunity came along and we set up.
But it must have hurt that basically you'd helped build this Kingsley's brand, and then you felt complied that you had to leave.
The day I left, it was very sad. Definitely. I put 18 years of my life into it and sold a lot of properties to a lot of happy people, and many couldn't believe I was going because they all believed I was Kingsley's.
How did it make you feel?
Disappointed. I can't say sad. The day I left was sad because you're leaving people that you've worked with. Disappointed that the baby that I'd seen grown up, I had to leave as a teenager.
How did it feel that night when you went home?
A weight had taken off my shoulders. Perhaps the start of a new point in my life. I've got a very supportive wife.
Do you think in hindsight it's the best thing that ever happened to you?
Yes. From there, we opened up Dreamview Estates in 2012. Because I wasn't far away, knowing about it, and I don't think I used Facebook. Actually, do you know what? That's not true. I joined LinkedIn then, I joined Facebook then, maybe Twitter soon after as well, because I knew then that was the way this was going. I don't even think Instagram was even around then, I'm not sure. And I put out there that I'm now moving to open up my own branch down the road. Come and see me if you want to find me. A lot of people sourced me out and brought their business to me.
So obviously shows that the power of personal brand over companies is absolutely vital.
1,000,000%. That's what I've said all along. It's about the people behind the door of the office. Do you remember when Black Horse, and I think you worked with
Did you-
Halifax.
I'm Halifax.
Sorry.
Yeah, well done. Yeah.
Remember when the Prudential bought and took all the names down off the tops? Worst decision they could have ever made. They should have left Chris Watkin and Co. above the door, underneath
Powered
supported.
by. Yeah.
They would still be in business today.
Yes.
And if I'm not mistaken, some of the Chris Watkins bought the businesses back.
For £1.
Yeah.
Bargain.
If they'd have come to me, they'd have still had the business. Their shareholders wouldn't have lost a fortune, and they'd still be in business today.
So you've been in business now for 9 years on your own.
Yes.
What would you have done differently over the last 9 years?
Don't think I would have done anything differently. I really don't. We've been successful. The numbers speak for themselves. We don't have to do a lot of business at Dreamview to get the income that we need to pay the bills that we have. And I have a saying, it's not how much you make, it's how little you spend. The trick with me in all the businesses I've worked in is keeping the expenses down. However that means doing it, I'll do it. Staff, advertising, marketing, whatever it
You're
is.
tight.
No, not at all. Cautious, because I want to see lots of zeros at the end of the year on my balance sheet.
Is it that money motivates you?
No, no.
What does motivate you?
My clients and my customer satisfaction and the reviews that we get and the gratitude we get. Have you seen my picture of my whiskey collection?
No, I haven't.
I'll show it to you. It's on one of my Facebook pages somewhere. I have about 15 bottles of whiskey, one of them personalised, many with grateful letters. And if you look at the reviews that I get, that's what satisfies me. People move on through your life, but many of them come back to me and say, you did a great job for us. We'd like you to act for us again. That's the best piece of PR you can get.
So you're looking for the esteem of others because you've helped them move from one chapter of their life to the next.
Oh yeah, definitely. I
And
say
if you
this
can earn a few quid as
on
well.
the way. It's very nice. I say to all my clients and the next generation, I'm now selling to the grandchildren of people I sold to way back in the 80s, and it's very true. And that I don't think many can
So
get
why are you still in love with this industry when I talk to an awful lot of people in their 50s and early 60s who are estate agents who have fallen out of love with it?
Perhaps you need to ask a young lady called Jennifer Hartburn, who's opened up a company or bought out a company. I met her through Agents Together, which is something you're strongly involved with, and I've become her mentor. And she said to me, and this is the key to it, I'm motivated, and I motivated her. My wife hates the fact that this thing on the desk here is virtually glued to my ear every day. And that's who I am, and that's who I will always be, because I give a service, I'll respond, reply at any time. It's twitching me that I can't look at the phone for the last 20 minutes we've been sitting here, because I'm worried I might let somebody down, and I never want to do that.
But surely, if you're constantly on that, you're probably letting your wife down by not giving you attention.
She says the same. She forces me to try and turn it off at 8 o'clock at night if I can, but trust me, I'll look at it before I go to bed. And sometimes even in the middle of the night when I get up and go to the bathroom. Sad that.
But surely there has to be time for your family, because you said earlier on, if you're not half the man you are, these are my words, because of your wife, or you are the man you are.
I am the man,
Yeah.
all the man I am
Yeah.
because of my wife, without a doubt. I'm very lucky. I can multitask. I'm very capable. Things won't slip by me unless I make a mistake, and I
Okay.
don't.
Are you a perfectionist?
Yeah, absolutely.
Do you think that perfectionism, in some respects, is holding you back?
I don't think so.
Okay.
I tell you what is holding me back doing is winding down. Because coming to the end of the conversation, I am 66 this year. I don't see myself doing this for another 30 or 40 years. Well, I won't be able to do it, obviously.
When do you think you will retire?
That's a difficult question. I'd like to think 70. I had the letter through, you can now take your pension, so that's something. I think to have something somewhere down the line in about 3 or 4 years' time, so we get to the stage where we can slowly change things. We talked about this with a friend of mine, Charlie Landin, today, of getting somebody in place to take that over. I'm a dreadful, when you don't give things to people to do.
Delegator?
Delegator, thank you. Can't even say the word. Dreadful delegator. I don't believe anyone can do it better than me, which is a real problem. But it's worked for the last 48 years, and I'm probably not going to change it now.
You're not going to change an old dog, are you?
No. I've been away for 7 days. This is why this is the last day of my holiday. I came home last night, and between 7:30 last night and 10 o'clock last night, every landlord that hadn't been paid has been paid. No one will say that.
What would your final piece of advice be to any estate agent listening to this on how to be a happier, more fulfilled estate agent?
My message to any estate agent to try and stay in love with the business: be honest to yourself, be honest to your clients. I've never got anywhere without being honest to everybody, and that's my reputation, and you could not take a better piece of information out of this interview today. Be straight with your clients, they'll be straight with you.
Murray, the pleasure is all mine for you to take the time and trouble to come up to Grantham. Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
You are even more awesome in the flesh, even though you are smaller. But thank you for your time.
You're welcome, Chris. It's
And
been a pleasure.
can I thank you on behalf of the industry for your passion and drive? On behalf of the industry, thank you.
You're welcome. Thank you. It's been a pleasure to be here and a pleasure to meet you too.
Thank you, sir.
You're welcome.